Oh, YouTube. How you guys doing? Guess what? Anybody who voted for Trump is a fucking idiot. And I am, as a dude who struggles in today's society, even I know that Trump was going to make your life worse. And I hate to say it, but I'm not going to say the Democrats really have your best interest in mind, but they would have been way better than this. Donald Trump does not care about you. He does not care about the American people. The Republican Party does not really care about you. It's funny how the Republican Party says that, like, all these things the Democrats are doing as like and it's basically what they're doing. It's funny how everybody, when the whole Epstein didn't kill himself meme came out 4 years ago, everybody only thought it was like the Clintons. And it's painfully obvious that Donald Trump is just as likely to be in the biggest name and the biggest problem of everything that happened with that whole shenanigans. It's just as likely to be on him as it is on any Clinton, any fucking wealthy elite that you claim is too woke or whatever, even though they're laughing their way to the bank. And but for some reason, you guys just, all these stupid MAGA dumb fucks thought it was just only, like, Trump was just never going to be there, despite the fact that this guy has sexual assault convictions on his name, talks about how he would fuck his daughter, talks about, has, like, photos of him and his daughter, like, sitting suggestively on his lap when she's, like, 14. This is all, like, so obvious, and for some reason people still kept giving Trump a pass because, oh, Kamala's a woman and she's emotional, even though the guy I'm voting for is literally going on unhinged lunatic meltdowns at 3 a.m. on some stupid social media platform. Everything that you apply to everything you apply to, like, liberal feminist women applies just as much, if not more, to MAGA. Yeah, there are some overly loud feminists on Twitter that say stupid shit about patriarchy and and have way too overly simplified worldviews. But my God, is Trump, like, worse than this shit? He's literally a pedophile, and people are acting like, oh well, Trump, it took all of this. It took finally this, but keep in mind, Trump has already been the president. It took all of this for people to finally start to see a little bit of the bullshit and how MAGA is a con job and a cult. And it's not going to make your life better. It's only made the life better of Trump, who stayed out of prison, who should have been in prison for the false elector slate that he was trying to do back in 2020. Yeah, I know, okay, you view Biden as a loser because he falls asleep, and yeah, Biden was not capable of being the next president for another 4 years, I agree. But Kamala wouldn't have been that bad. She wouldn't have been that bad of a president. She wouldn't have been good. She wouldn't have been anything special. She wouldn't have been a net positive. But Trump is worse, and it's a sizable difference. And he's also a horrible person who would, by the way, again, you have a bunch of, like, right-wing younger males who are just basically, they wish they had a girlfriend, and so they became an angry MAGA fuck because they don't have a girlfriend. And you do realize if you ever did get a girl, like, look, I agree women need to be more interested in men to end the patriarchy or whatever fucking stupid shit they say. It's like, society is not this patriarchal system as much as feminists claim it is. It just isn't. But if you ever were to get a girlfriend, and Donald Trump wanted to have sex with her, he would run you over with a bus and then sexually assault, rape, whatever, to get what he wants, including, and granted, you're never going to meet Trump, so, like, that exact situation would probably never happen, but if it did happen, it could. That's what he does. Donald Trump will do anything only for himself. He does not care about societal stability. He does not care about younger men. He does not care about the podcast community. He cares about manipulating you, and he always has. So let's talk about briefly if the ultimate question for me is if Trump does get removed from office in some way, shape, or form, are the follow-ups, I mean, the most immediate follow-up would be Vance, but you have like three or four different subsets trying to like vie for the power. Vance would be in the best case in terms of getting that power. He would be in the forefront for it. And the question is he even worse? And the answer, I don't know. In some ways, I think Vance is worse than Trump because he's younger, which means he could be around for longer. He also has, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's ever worked a job that wasn't either a U.S. Senator type, government, or for Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel does, again, another shadowy fuck, manipulating younger males, thinking that he's like one of these, technology's going to save us. Technology at this point is making your life worse. It is. Technology, people aren't excited for new technology that much anymore. The last time you really saw a watershed moment of technology was like 2007-ish, and I've made videos about that, and I would actually argue that was probably for the worst at this point. I kind of miss life pre-2007 with, not everything being this obsessive over likes and retweets and follower counts culture, which has been going on now for almost 2 decades. But Vance, to me, is not as... I think enough people would see through the lack of charisma that he doesn't have that same sort of, like, humor that I think Trump got him elected, especially in 2016. People used to like his tweets in some ways. They thought they were funny. But sometimes he would make funny comments, for sure. But now it's like almost like the party, it's like a comedian that never changes his act. Eventually, it's like kind of sad to watch the same thing over and over again. It's like, how many times do you have to watch a comedian do the same act complaining about like woke people or whatever? It's like, dude, this is not. I mean, maybe it was kind of a funny comment back in 2013, but now it's like you're just it's just like it's old news. It's like, okay, yeah, there's some overly loud far leftists on a college campus that maybe can't take a joke, but it's really not as bad as you probably think, and it's not how many more fucking weeks and months and years of the same fucking comment do we need? So yeah, I mean, you have a bunch of people who are just not changing it up, and Trump is like kind of like that. So I do think like the humor isn't quite as there, and you can just tell he's on like the defensive. And if there's one thing that makes a figurehead like Trump, a cult of personality figure, if there's one way you can break them down is put them on the hardcore defensive, because they are always used to being on attacking and insulting people and getting their way that way, that if you're able to flip the script on them, they are so unprepared that it's not their game plan. They don't know how to play defense, right? They're like a large chunk of the early Peyton Manning days, and then they finally got a defense, and guess what? They won a Super Bowl. So, Vance is obviously the leader there, and he would take over. And I think in some ways he's worse because, again, he's younger, and he has Peter Thiel, who is, I think at this point, the most dangerous person, maybe even more so than the Heritage Foundation or MAGA, the most immediate MAGA people. Some people say Stephen Miller is also could usurp and manipulate his way to even more power. Stephen Miller's basically a older millennial who never grew out of the South Park. I mean, I know that it's funny because South Park is in the news for what they said about Trump a few days ago. That whole like term, like the South Park Republican, I don't think it's really that big of a thing, but it did exist. And Stephen Miller is basically like a 20-something dude who said like edgy jokes back in the day and never grew up for about 20 years now. And you see that. It's like he's a guy who doesn't understand really economics. He doesn't really understand foreign policy. He doesn't really understand really domestic policy. He just is just a guy who hates people and wants to have a target to blame to make himself feel good. And I don't think he knows how to do anything relevant without doing it through somebody like Trump. So I'm not sure if Stephen Miller would really be able to lead, and I don't think Stephen Miller is more dangerous than Trump by himself. I think Vance could be, though. So that's why, and Vance is more likely to, he would become the president if something happened to Trump. So I don't know. And then of course you have the wing of people that are like what I would call like the 2016 MAGAites, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene or someone of that stuff. And you could even argue like Steve Bannon, and I would argue it's kind of like linked to like those Gamergate type people, which again, it's like, yeah, there is like a little bit of the overly girl boss feminist or whatever who maybe would be over the top with their comments and demands about society, but like this response is just so out of whack. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like if you don't like the stupid Ghostbusters movie with the dumb women in it, just don't go see the fucking movie. It's like, is it really the end of the world that this stupid movie exists? It's, it's like there's other movies to watch. There's other video games to play. And, I don't know. I guess maybe as somebody who just thinks video games have been dog shit for about 15 years now, I still go back and play older games more so than anything else. Like I still play a lot of like Heroes of Might and Magic or, the RPG series I really like recently has been like the Trails in the Sky, Trails of Cold Steel games, and they're still churning those things out. But the franchise debuted about 20 years ago. So I don't know. I don't really keep up with modern AAA gaming. I don't have any interest in it. I think it's been bad, with or without woke shit. Honestly, I don't really care. I just think the AAA games have been bad. I don't want to play another Souls-like or another first-person shooter. That's all you get these days. Souls-like or these, like, first- or third-person action-y games that are just, I don't know. There's, like, open world. And open world games are usually nowadays code for big open space with not much fucking shit to do in it. So, I don't know. Anyway, the Gamergate crowd, they're going to usurp. They're like a third wing of this, like, Game of Thrones, Trump is the old man about to pass away, and who's going to take his place if he steps down or whatever. But we don't know. I mean, he might not. As of right now, I wouldn't even place money on him to step down. So, but I just think that this is something worth talking about. Is if anybody in the immediate power grab in a post Donald Trump MAGA cult, are any of them potentially more dangerous? And the only one I think could be more dangerous is the one who's most likely to get the power, which I think would be Vance plus Peter Thiel. These people do not care about you. I know you view them as masculine because they're wealthy or whatever. These people are not masculine. These people are not that successful. They're actually quite complainy. And someone like Vance is never, it's funny how I listen to right-wing YouTubers sometimes just because I like to hear what they say. I think everybody, I generally describe myself as center-left. I will say I have some criticisms of, I do think there's some extreme leftism that is stupid shit. For example, I've already said, I think the left overly relies on things like rebuttals like that's just a social construct when it's not. But if there's one thing, I remember listening to, I think it was Aaron Clary, who makes comments about, like, have they ever done a, he has, like, his Clary test, and one of the things is, like, have you ever worked in the private sector, I guess, or, like, do you ever, or have you only worked public sector jobs or something? Well, you look at someone like J.D. Vance, and it's like, he effectively is somebody who has had his hand held his whole life, his whole adult life. I know people view him as like, oh, well, he's from Ohio, and he wrote Hillbilly Elegy, and dude, J.D. Vance has had his hand held his whole damn life. Especially, I don't know about his childhood, but his adult life, yes. He pretty much, I'm pretty sure he finished high school, went to college, he went to an Ivy League school, if I recall, maybe like a Harvard, and then he pretty much left it and worked for Peter Thiel. And now he's in the government. So, these people that, MAGA support, in a lot of ways, they're just hypocrites. Right? Like, you can't sit here and say you're for free markets and you hate Nepo babies. It's like, in a way, J.D. Vance is kind of a Nepo baby. Maybe it's not his dad, because Peter Thiel's not his father, but he effectively has only been in the private sector where he was able to have his hand held by Peter Thiel. So, if you're some capitalist and you support Vance, I think Vance is a great an amalgamation of the post. Like, we don't really even live in a capitalist society anymore, and this post-capitalist society is even worse. So I sometimes talk to my left-wing friends, and they say how, like, they hate capitalism, and it's like, dude, sadly, there can be things that are worse. There can be things that are fucking worse. And in this in this post-capitalist society that we've been living in for really since COVID ended, it's basically just, the term is oligarchy, and that's kind of what we're seeing now. It's not a capitalist system for the wealthy. They have societal protections that we then pay for, whether it's through bailouts, whether it's through the only thing like our government, for example. We have all these projects that only help out pretty much wealthy people. Why should tax dollars of Americans be going to fucking football stadiums? I know those are, in the grand scheme of things, they're not super expensive compared to the trillions of dollars of debt, but it's in the local community. It's like $800 million stadium that could go to create so much more for working people. And for what? So you can watch a football game, which you can't even afford to go to anymore. So the only people who benefit from it are the ultra wealthy, the players somewhat, and the owners even more so. But that's just one example of, I would even argue, a lot of airport renovations. Of course, the poorer people work at the airports for the most part, except for, except for the really, really wealthy pilots. Some flight attendants make decent money, and then, of course, air traffic controllers make good money, but most of the crew, people who are, like, loading up your luggage or, guiding traffic on the runways, like, those guys don't make, or working in the restaurants, they don't make much money, obviously. So, those airports renovations, they might be, providing some jobs or something for poorer people, but you're not the ones using the airports. Most people I know, like, they can afford to fly once. I mean, if you fly Spirit Airlines or something, you can fly pretty cheap, but it's like, enjoy fucking being scrunched like a sardine. So anyway, I'm getting off topic. The point is that the Republican Party does not care about working people. The Democratic Party is slightly better, enough to give them my support. And I think MAGA is taking advantage of lonely young men. And I think what comes after Trump, the Trump era of MAGA, because the cult will not go away if Trump leaves or passes away. He's almost 80 or whatever. The next part of it will still try to take advantage of these young men. And it will still ruin the lives of these young men. Go outside, meet new people, start a new hobby. If you don't like your current hobbies anymore, if you're bored of them, if you feel like you're just running out of momentum, then maybe stop that hobby. Why do you need to keep doing the same hobbies? If you're bored of Dungeons and Dragons, it's time for you to play something else. If you're bored of being at the gym all day and working out, maybe you need to stop work. Maybe you need to just go once every few days and not worry about counting calories and macros and every fitness YouTuber and all this other stupid shit. Go for an hour a day, 3 days a week, 4 days a week. Dedicate yourself for that hour, then leave, regardless of where you are in the workout. When that timer hits 60 minutes and 0 seconds, stop it and just say, I'm done for today. People need to go out and do new shit. There's still cheap enough stuff to do out there, I think. The only thing I'm just sad about is just when I go out to these public places and meet up groups, the ones that I have tried, it is a bit of a sausage fest. I wish it was more gender balanced. I'm not trying to hoard all the women for myself, but I would like to meet a girl who wants to be with me. I'm not going to lie. But I would also like my male friends who are single to find a woman too. So I do have some criticisms. I mean, the question I do propose, and I think there's people on the right wing and people on the left wing who are starting to ask this question: do women really like men that much? And that is what I think is the ultimate issue with all of this shit, including why MAGA grew in size. I think that a large chunk of MAGA is a response to, we don't really seem to know how to end gender roles for men because women have to do some of it, and that's telling women what to do, which is apparent, that's a big no-no in modern society. But you can't end gender roles for only one and not the other, and you can't sit here and say, feminism will say, we want men to be nurturing. Saying men can't be nurturing is actually patriarchy, but in reality, it's not. It's the relationships have to form, and they're not forming in the first place anymore, especially amongst younger people. It's even worse for the 20-somethings. I'm in my early 30s now, and I feel like we were kind of a pivot point, but I look at like the 23 or 22-year-olds that I work with. Oh my God, it's horrible. There's just so much hostility both between the men and the women, and you can play which came first, the men treating the women like shit or the women treating the men like shit. But I mean, that's the same thing as Israel-Palestine. It's like, what came first, the Palestinians or the, I don't even know about really it's the Palestinians because they're a very unpowerful country or place. But is it how people, how extreme Islam treated the Jewish people of Israel? Or the Jewish people of Israel treating them Islamic people? And it's like it goes all the way down. At some point, you just have to fucking say enough is enough, and everybody is keeping these problems alive, and you need to just move on and start to enjoy other people's company. So yeah, I think the biggest issue with our society is the lack of social interaction, and the lack of both platonic friendships between opposite sex and, of course, romantic partnerships between opposite sexes. You need both. I want women who are my friends, but I also want a romantic partner. And I do think we need to have some discussions about what men need to do to get women to be interested, but women have to also look inside themselves and say, if you're a woman and you're not willing to date a guy because he's 2 years younger than you, and then can you really call yourself like progressive or a feminist or for ending gender roles? Now, your preferences in the dating market matter in the country that you live in your government, in your corporation, in the economy. It's all intertwined. So I do think that this loneliness issue is a discussion that needs to be had. And I don't know if people want to have it because it's a very difficult one to admit that you're not maybe as attractive as you claim to be. And I think a lot of men and women don't want to acknowledge that. So the discussion might never happen. Just my thoughts, and I'm out.